Good morning, everyone. I am Melanie Youngsma of the Lansing Journal, here with Josh Bootsma, our managing editor.
Good morning, everyone.
Josh, I like your shirt.
Thank you. I like yours too.
We are not wearing our traditional Lansing Journal garb this morning. Instead, we want to thank Stony Tire for these bold and cozy sweatshirts. Stony Tire is located just south of us in Linwood, and owner Mark Kreischeld lives in Lansing and is a Lansing Journal subscriber.
Mm-hmm.
Even though things are always super busy at Stony Tire, Mark makes it a priority to read the Lansing Journal's daily news every morning, and he watches our weekly videos. Last week, he emailed me with a few suggestions to improve our videos. And so we've started putting those suggestions into practice. That was very helpful. We appreciate that kind of feedback. And it seemed appropriate then for Stony Tire to be the sponsor of this week's video. Hence the sweatshirts.
With that being said, that's our setup. Today's topic of the video is a big one. It is being in print.
I can't believe you said that.
I know. It's a topic that gets brought up all the time, but not one that we talk about. I don't know if we've ever talked about it in a video like this before.
I don't think we have.
Yeah.
Those of you who have been with the Lansing Journal for a long time remember that we used to put out a print edition every month. And we were able to do that because when we launched, we were in a partnership with The Shopper, a longtime newspaper in South Holland, and they publish a newspaper every week.
Mm-hmm.
So as part of our partnership, the first week of the month, they would publish the Lansing Journal instead of The Shopper. And they had their own presses. They had Park Press, and they handled all the printing. They had a team of people who then bundled them and labeled them and brought them to the Lansing post office and delivered them to Lansing homes.
Yeah. And of course, with the coming of the pandemic, which changed everything for everybody, it also changed the situation that we found ourselves in. The Shoppers still continued, but Park Press closed down as a result of the pandemic.
That's right. You remember March of 2020 was when we all went into COVID quarantine.
Yeah.
And that, of course, affected a lot of businesses, including a lot of our advertisers. And so we were not able to be in print for a while. We did a print issue in April of 2020, and a few weeks later is when Park Press went out of business or shut down. So we were not able to do a print issue for a while. When we decided we were ready to do a print issue in December,
Yep.
December of 2020, Park Press was not around. We had talked to Lithotype, another printer,
Yeah.
and in the meantime, they went out of business too. So we ended up using Blue Island newspaper printing to print our December issue.
Right. And then we returned to Blue Island in March of 2021 when we did a print issue that was focused on Lansing's local elections and all the elections that affected Lansing. So we gathered information about all these local candidates. You probably remember there were multiple pages of candidate responses to some of the questions that we asked them. We felt that it was important, that information was important enough to physically put in print and put in the mailboxes or on the front steps of Lansing residents.
Right, and that brings up an important dynamic about being in print. You know, we publish news online every day,
Mm-hmm.
and we have always done that, even when we had a monthly print edition.
Right.
We were publishing news online every day, and so when we would plan a print issue, we had to decide which of that news would end up in print.
Right.
So most of the stories, there'd be 20, 30, 40 stories in a print article, in a print issue, and most of those had already been published online.
Right.
We were just compiling them for the print issue. We would save a few stories to appear in print first.
Right.
So those were new, and then we would publish those online later.
Mm-hmm.
But so all of people who had been getting our news online, a lot of this was old news by the time they got it. People who were relying only on the print issue for their news were not getting all the news.
Right.
This was just a small selection
Right.
of news that we had been publishing throughout the month.
And the pandemic brought about that very thing where people aren't getting all the news that we publish. The pandemic brought about kind of a sense of urgency and timeliness that maybe wasn't there before, where, hey, this event is canceled, this new policy is changing, and you need to know that now, right? That's not something that it's not the kind of news that you want to learn about in 2 weeks when our next print issue comes out. So the
Right.
pandemic changed even our mentality and readers' mentality about the news.
Right. You remember things were changing day by day,
Yeah.
and the governor was doing a press conference every day.
Right.
But the Lansing Journal, we also, of course, were publishing every day, but we were focusing on local things,
Yeah.
local schools, local businesses, local churches, and they all had to make changes to the way they were doing business, to the hours that they were open, to
Mhm.
the kind of services that they could provide. So we were gathering that information, releasing it every day, and people, I think, appreciated staying informed, staying connected, and knowing what was going on around town.
Right.
And even people who loved the monthly print issue understood now how important it was to be receiving news every day.
Right. Right. So let's just ask the question. Let's just throw it out there. Melanie, is the Lansing Journal never going to have another print issue?
Josh, I'm not saying that.
Okay.
I'm not saying we're never going to be in print again, but I do want people to understand all of the factors that affect the decision about being in print. For one thing, these days it is harder to save news to put into a print issue because things have become so unpredictable.
Yeah.
They have been unpredictable for the past 2 years. And so it's harder to save news for a print issue.
Right.
And the fact that there are fewer presses available that we can work with,
Right.
that's
Right.
another factor.
And of course, you didn't mention the time and the money that it takes to actually print thousands of these. And there are dozens of pages in here that you and I are spending hours laying out.
Those
And
were
that,
long days.
yeah, and that's something that you built into your monthly schedule. But that whole week before we went to print, you were kind of, this is what I'm doing. You dedicated your time to formatting the print issue.
Right.
So that spends a lot of time. You also have to spend more time selling these. These ads are different than the ads that
Right.
are online, right?
Right.
There's more time that you have to spend doing that. And it is expensive, whether we pay a delivery service, whether we pay the post office. It's expensive to have this printed and delivered to the people of Lansing.
Right. We had to raise special funds to be in print. We had to get special advertising to be in print
Yeah.
to cover those extra costs. And all of that time was time that we were not reporting and writing
Right,
news.
right,
So, yeah, that's a factor.
right. And there's a lot of advantages to being online every day, as we kind of touched on. We have, in an online article, you have unlimited space.
Right. We sometimes had to trim things to get
Right.
it to fit in print.
Or you have to choose, okay, we've got this really nice photo. It'd be nice to get it on a color page rather than a black and white page. Online, there's none of that. I was at the TF South regional semifinal this week. I have 17 photos in a gallery in that story. That's not going to happen in here, right? So that's one of the advantages that online affords. And it's easy for people to share
Right.
and to spread the news. So we can share it to our Facebook page. People can share it on their Facebook pages. People can email it to each other. There are all types of ways to share an online news article that you just can't in print.
And we can't do videos in print.
That's true. The one time we tried, it just didn't work out. Somehow it just didn't work
It
out.
was a good effort. So yeah, a lot of people ask us, when are you going to be in print again? And this video is kind of a long answer to that question.
Right.
But we wanted you to know it's a complicated question,
Right.
and there aren't easy answers. So we want our readers and supporters to understand that. And I want to make sure people know we are not saying that we are never going to be in print again.
Right.
There are certain situations, like election season,
Mm-hmm.
where it does make sense for us to be in print. But being in print is a lot of work and a lot of money. So we want to make sure it's the right choice at the right time.
Right.
That's all we're saying.
And we're open to your suggestions about when that right time is. When does a print issue make sense in your mind? So we'll put an email link below. We'd love to hear from you regarding that question.
Absolutely. Thanks for letting us share our thought process with you. And we want to make sure that we are all on the same page, whether it's a printed page or a web page.
Very good. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Have a great week.